Hi and welcome to Culture Night 2021. My name is Sarah Flanagan and we're broadcasting live for the next 2.5 hours from Outhouse LGBT Community Resource Centre on Capel Street in Dublin.
Hello, my name is Noah Halpin and welcome to Culture Night 2021. So thank you for viewing, and hopefully tonight you'll find the conversation fascinating and some wonderful entertainment. Welcome and enjoy the show. And joining us first today on Culture Night is the wonderful Lisa Nikamrahiv. I hope I said that correctly.
Perfect.
I'm very sorry if I didn't.
Perfect.
And Lisa is from the wonderful organisation Shout Out. And for those who don't know Shout Out, I'll let Lisa explain a little bit more about what Shout Out do.
Yeah, so I could talk all night about Shout Out, Noah, but Shout Out is a charity that was formed nearly 10 years ago now, in 2012, in Ireland. Obviously, right across the country, we deliver workshops on all things LGBTQ with young people, mainly. So we've been to nearly 2,000 schools now. We're about to hit the 2,000 mark, maybe next week. And that equates to like 70,000 students.
That's a huge number.
Yeah, massive. And then we'll also go to workplaces and things like that. And obviously with COVID, things have changed. So lots more workplaces lately and things like that. But we did, of course, move online with the school
and
workshops
how
too.
How did you find that, Lisa? Like, obviously it's very difficult because you're so used to going into schools and into venues and speaking to people. And I always find like speaking to people in person is just that little bit easier. You connect with people a little bit more. So what was it like, throughout the pandemic, having to move Shout Out education sessions online?
Yeah, it was quite difficult. It was quite challenging. I'm not going to lie or beat around the bush with it. I did a few. I would have done a lot more of the in-person ones, and I did a few, and it was really hard to connect with the young people. It was really hard to, like, they were wearing masks. We'd maybe see the whole class on one Zoom screen. We didn't do many where you'd have each student on their own Zoom. So it was really hard to engage with them. Like, that's the funnest, the best, the most engaging, and the most important part of the Shout Out workshop is to say, okay, any questions? And they love just being like, okay, like whatever about those letters you talk about, well, what's a demi boy? And they'll have like, they've so much they want to talk about, they've so much they want to discuss. And that's the best part. It's the chats with them. So we couldn't have that as much. But I mean, at the same time, we got to way more schools right across the country in places that we couldn't have reached. So
like, it can be a little bit more accessible. But what I find, and I want to ask you this, is because I know my own work at Tenny, I find young people amazing. I find that like younger people in Ireland are just incredible at just accepting and moving on. And like, that's my mate. She's trans. That's my mate. He's gay. Do you find the same thing, that young people are just incredible?
They are. I won't I'll kind of give two sides to that I would see and that we would see in Shout Out, because like in one sense, I totally agree. And like, you have like, I remember this really young class. They're like, well, when I came out as pan, it's just like, it's so cool. It's so comfortable. But there are still serious problems in schools in Ireland. Like 68% of kids are still saying that they're being bullied, queer kids. So there is so much left to be done. And it's so important that we can do workshops like this. And Shout Out, I think, are the best at delivering these workshops, getting into schools, having these conversations. And it's just so important. Like, you can't say that someone has a free and equal and good education if they feel they're at risk of bullying, if they feel they're in danger, if they feel they're unsafe.
There's no point in talking about, all the positives and all the good things without also mentioning the negatives and the challenges that still face young LGBT or older LGBTQI plus people as well.
Yeah, but that's why we're doing the workshops that we're doing, right? Tenny, Shout Out, belong to, because it needs to be done. And there are still lots of problems. And some of those problems, unfortunately, are getting worse. Like we're seeing the rise of rhetoric about stuff that we hadn't seen at the beginning of Shout Out's days in 2012. Some of that's getting a lot worse with online content. So I think there's more of a need than ever in one sense. But yeah, young people are cool as well.
And are you looking forward to getting back into schools?
Absolutely, yeah, can't wait. We've started doing a couple. I've just signed up for one. I'm a Gael goer, so I signed up for one in Gael Colashta Kiri. Yeah, Gael Colashta Kiri I did last year, and I saw them on the list again, and I was like, yes, I get to go back. Like, we had all the chats Os Gaeilge about LGBTQ stuff, because we do that in Shout Out too. We do it in both languages or bilingual.
Because
so,
wasn't there a queer dictionary that was created, was it in association with USI?
USI, right.
And things like that, which explained kind of different kind of words in queer dictionary or queer language, like translated
Exactly.
from Gaelic to English.
Yeah, so I translated our Shout Out workshop booklet when I started with the organisation maybe 3 years ago. And that was very heavily based on the folklore atach that you're talking about, that Líseach actually led in the USI when she was Ifigach and Gaeilge. So that stuff is so useful, so important. And it's probably the best resource for Irish language queer stuff. So it's great.
Well, what I would say to you is you folks at Shout Out are just doing incredible work.
Thanks
and
so
please
much.
keep doing it. And thank you so much for joining us tonight on Culture Night.
Thanks, Emil.
Thank you. So next we're going to be going to, it's very fitting that, you know, we're here filming on Culture Night in the Outhouse LGBT Resource Centre. So earlier on we spoke to the folks at the Outhouse, and here they are to tell you just a little bit more about what the Outhouse does.
We connect the LGBT plus community because it's everything from lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, intersex, asexual, queer, you know, anything that encompasses that diversity.
I worked in the original Outhouse over in South William Street way back, and I worked in the Herschel Centre as well on the early days of GCN. So yeah, I've always been you know, involved in the community really, you know. Been out a long time.
This is definitely the most fulfilling of the roles I've done, you know, because I'm doing what I love, which is, you know, making coffee, making food, serving people, but I'm doing it within a community that is obviously really important to me as a member of the LGBT community, and I just love being able to give back.
Basically, Outhouse is, at its core, is a safe space for the LGBT communities.
If you're coming out today, you know, if you know there's a space upstairs, there's a cafe you can come. You know, I've often been working upstairs and you see young people with their parents coming in and having coffee. And
Since I worked here, and I'm only working here 2 years, people commenting on social media how much Outhouse has meant to them in their coming out journey. Being able to feel comfortable and just relax.
What sets us apart from any other business is that we're running this as like a social enterprise. So we're here to provide not just you know, a good quality coffee to the community, but we're here to provide a safe space to the community, make sure that everyone is welcome and comfortable.
it's great to have a space like that to come in, you know, and feel welcome.
We also have tenant offices within the building, and in those tenant offices there's other charities. So we're a home for the whole community.
We had an art auction last year called Outhouse.
So Outhouse was our first online fundraising auction last year. With the cafe and the venue closed, there was no operational costs coming in to raise money for the centre that we'd lost through COVID. We were very lucky, the artistic community were very generous, and we also gave back to the artistic community by giving 50% back. What we've decided now is to have a monthly artist exhibiting in Outhouse.
So the plan really is to have an exhibition in the cafe space each month and feature an artist each month. I've been asked to have my paintings up there for the first month. So I've got a small studio at home, which is very tiny, and I can barely get into it at the moment. So I wanted to work on some larger pieces, you know, and I inquired about coming in here into the basement, and I was in here every day for over the lockdown, put my nice ambient music on in the background, and you know, I've always painted for years, just a little dabbled here and there, but It's the first time I've ever kind of explored techniques, you know.
It's a space that we can actually focus on LGBT art because other places don't do that. People who work here are great. I mean, I've always felt, you know, that they make everybody feel really comfortable. It's a great place to work, and I have heard from so many people that it's a great place to actually come to.
To be able to have this space where no matter who you are or how you present yourself, you're welcome and you're not going to be made to feel different.
Each year, like basically up until COVID, we had over 50,000 people come in.
Family and community is kind of what we focus on, and there's, you know, again, including all walks of life. And there are so many members of the LGBT community that in Dublin and Ireland that aren't from Ireland. You know, they've left countries that aren't as accepting as Ireland and whatnot. So we provide a safe space for people from direct provision, you know, safe space for other immigrants, migrants, traveling community, things like that. So as a culture, we're very multicultural. That's our kind of goal. Like we don't want to discriminate. So just to be able to see them, have a chat and put a smile on their face is super important.
Thanks so much to the guys at Outhouse for chatting to us about what the wonderful organisation does. We're here now with our mobile journalists for the evening, Shanna and Colm. They're going to be going around the city catching some footage of what's going on and reporting back to us because we're stuck in the studio, so we can't get out and about. So you're going to be our eyes. What are you looking forward to seeing this evening? Have you got anything planned? Or are you just going to go and...
I'm mostly just going to walk around the city, see other art exhibitions, talk to people who are just enjoying the night.
Cool. Are you going to get some vox pops for us and see what's
we'll
happening?
See if anyone's willing to talk to us.
Yeah, if anyone's still able to chat.
Yeah, the experience when we do stuff like this.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Colm, you said something about you're going to go.
I'm going to be interviewing some artists about the creation of their comics and see how it starts from beginning to the end process.
Wow.
And very interesting. There's different age groups involved in their comics as well. So they're, you know, they don't deal for just adults, you know, and overgrown kids like myself.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
But that's what I'll be doing first.
Yeah.
And secondly, then I'll probably try and visit the tinsmithing, which is being held by some travellers,
Okay.
which is further up the street there.
Yes, I'd heard about that actually.
Yeah. I think that'll be very, very interesting.
Okay.
It's something
Amazing.
that I'd love to see done because it's an old profession that they used to do, you know, and since it's died out. They're
That's
trying
something you
bring it
get to
back.
see.
Yeah.
Get to see often.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Make sure you get some snaps of that for us and send it back,
definitely,
and we can show
definitely.
everybody else
Absolutely,
as well. Also, you're interviewing Shanna. You're interviewing the artist in residence.
Yeah.
So the Outhouse artist in residence is Eva O'Donovan. She's got some work on display in the Red Room. So you're going to be chatting to her as well.
Yeah, we're going to be interviewing her about her influences and the process behind her work. She has a new exhibition featuring trans feminine people in Ireland.
Yes.
So it's going to be a good time.
Yeah. And some of that artwork is actually on display at the moment. So we'll be open after this evening for people to come in and check out. So yeah, it's pretty amazing. Okay, we'll check in with you guys in a bit.
Okay,
Off
great.
you go.
Sound.
Great.
So next we're going to go over to Culture Night TV. Went and chatted to the people of Dublin on the streets of Dublin Pride 2021. Was a virtual Pride this year. It didn't stop people coming out and about. So we went and had a chat with them and seen what they're up to.
Yeah, so my name's Rachel.
I'm Matthew Flaherty. I'm from Galway.
I'm Mike. And my name's Gary.
Well, I'm Dylan Jordan and I'm a makeup artist.
I'm Luke. I'm gay and I work in a garage, but I'm planning on working on Twitch, like, you know, doing gaming and stuff. So.
Hi, I'm Diane, aka Dr. Can Evil.
I'm Sarah. I live in London. I'm back for the first visit since Christmas. So I've been gone for about 5 years, and yeah, it's very good to be here for Pride.
Hi, I'm Raquel Benavides. I'm from Spain. I have been living here for the past 4 years.
I'm Rachel. I'm Irish and I've recently moved back to Ireland in the last year because of COVID.
I'm Sadie, I'm 11, and yeah.
I'm Michael from Rackar. And
I'm Lisa from Newlands Cross.
And you're here for?
Pride.
Gay Pride!
Yeah, like I've been going to Pride actually for years now. And yeah, just like any time it's on, it's always a good time to go out and celebrate and just show a sense of solidarity.
It's great because everybody's accepting themselves for who they are and they don't have to hide it.
Yeah, gives people time to come together and be able to talk about it and not have anybody looking at them differently because they're surrounded by people that have the same problems. It gives them a weekend or a time to show themselves and let people know that what they feel is real.
It's just one day and you're just going all out and you're like, this is me. So
it's my first time being in Dublin Pride or like in Ireland for Pride. I've been New York and London for the last 9 years, so it's very fun to be here in Ireland, in my home country.
I mean, you have excitement. You have this want for a better time. You know, you want to go out there. I mean, this is nothing like you've ever seen in Dublin. The place gets turned into a total festival. The pubs come spilling into the streets. It's fantastic, isn't it?
It's unbelievable.
It is. And it's a great way for us to celebrate, you know.
Explore yourself once a year. It's actually
you
brilliant.
need to celebrate your friends, your family. You need to be supportive. This is the way it's gone. We're out, we're loud, we're proud, and we're happy with it.
I think people actually need to know what is it about. I think just 1 month or 1 day per year is not enough, because I think it's still people, like a lot of homophobic, and I think people should know more about it.
Well, it's a carnival, rejoicing that we have each other.
And again, it's wonderful that it's gone from strictly protest, but it's still a partly protest. That's why we have the extra letters. But it is, as Mike says, it's a celebration of how far we've come and a reminder of how far further we have yet to go.
I think that the challenges that are faced for LGBTQ communities have not gone away in Ireland or in other parts of the world. So I think that the reason for Pride and the purpose of it is still as valid as ever today. And then on the other side of it, it's just a wonderful celebration that is a good time for everyone. So why would you not keep that going?
I remember when I was 14 and I came into town and I was wearing like shorts similar to this, maybe a bit longer. They get shorter over the years. But I feel a lot more comfortable coming in now and just being myself, whereas years ago I would have been a bit more on edge. So I suppose the more you come, the more you realise it's just okay to be who you are. So yeah, it's stunning.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it's stunning. But yeah, it feels good. It just feels good to be around other people like yourselves and see straight allies just enjoying themselves as well. It's just nice to see people being happy.
I mean, hope you're also having a good time.
Have a fantastic Pride.
Happy Pride, everybody.
Happy Pride, guys.
And wasn't that just so wonderful, seeing people back out and about on Pride 2021? And it's always just so interesting to hear what Pride means to different people, because it can be very individual. But what I want to say now is that we're very lucky to be joined by two wonderful women, and I cannot proclaim to not know these wonderful women. We were at a Pillow Queens gig last week outside. It was really enjoyable. So with us today is Judith Finlay and Kate Jernan of, excuse me, I always butcher that surname, I'm so sorry, of Queer Culture Ireland. So firstly, maybe I'll ask you, Kate, what exactly is Queer Culture Ireland?
Excellent question. It is a lot of things. It primarily is a way to connect people and to build up and encourage more queer culture in Ireland. So that's one aspect of it. But a lot of what we also do is connecting like researchers to focus on queer history and to build that aspect up. But kind of anything queer and culture related is very much our jam. We will connect people, we will host events, we will record things, we will archive things, we will collect things, you name it, we'll do it.
Which is so important, especially when, you know, you're talking about, you know, a group of a community that comes with such a rich history and such a rich cultural history as well, that we do archive those things. So I might maybe ask you, Judith, what is it that Queer Culture Ireland have done to date?
So we've done quite a lot, and particularly with lockdown, that's actually accelerated a lot of our work. But we started with a lot of people who are doing independent projects, their own research, collecting their own materials, students, that kind of thing. And we started with a series of meetings that brought people together, and they connected, and projects went from small to quite big and exciting. But then what really kind of mobilized us during lockdown was we had in our care, we have the AIDS memorial quilts, the Irish AIDS memorial quilts, which are just amazingly iconic pieces.
Such a big responsibility
It is, absolutely.
to have. You know, for people who don't know what the Irish names quilt is, what it's formerly known as, am I correct? Yeah,
that's the official name. Yeah,
what people don't know what that is, maybe one of you will tell us.
Sure, I can say it. Well, essentially, when AIDS hit Ireland in the kind of late 80s was the start of AIDS coming to Ireland. There was a woman called Mary Shannon, and Mary had a great friend called Joe McCarthy. And Joe, he ended up with AIDS, and he very quickly researched it, and like very progressive for his time, he decided to educate all his friends and family about what HIV and AIDS were. And he was an instigator of a lot of people doing very active things around that. But one of the things he did, he got a book from San Francisco about the NAMES Project in America. And that was quilts that were made for people that were lost to AIDS. And when he was dying, he actually said to his friend Mary, "Can you make me this? I would like to be remembered that way." And that was the start of it. Since then, hundreds of people have contributed to it. They've made panels for loved ones that were lost. So we've got this amazing, rich, and like you said, so important piece of art, and you know, piece of history as well from the queer community, but not just the queer community. You know, those who lost people with intravenous drug use, haemophilia, loads of different parts of the community were lost, and there's so much silence around that loss. So these are really a reminder of that, and it's a way of keeping their memory alive.
Well, I think it's really important to, you know, acknowledge how far we've come with things like HIV and AIDS in Ireland.
Absolutely.
But also remember where we came from. So I know that's such a big responsibility on both of you to be holding those quilts. Another thing I want to know is, what prompted you to start Queer Culture Ireland?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Originally, the sort of grain of the idea, the teeny tiny little seed, was that we were both working in different institutions, researching queer stories and queer lives in those collections. And we're talking to loads of other people who are doing the same in really isolated, kind of siloed practices. And we wanted to bring everyone together because as we were doing that research, we realized so much of the resources and the archives or the stories that you find, you discover while having a pint with a friend, or you discover after you've done a tour and you're talking to the community themselves. So to build that up and to make it happen kind of faster, we wanted to bring people together in meetings through mailing lists, but then also exhibitions, talks, loads of other stuff. So it kind of grew from that.
Well, I know I've learned quite a great deal from Queer Culture Ireland. So where are we going next with it?
Well, at the moment, because of Culture Night and because the Dublin Festival of History is happening, the AIDS quilts are actually back on display, and they're up in the CHQ building, which is near EPIC, the Migration Museum. After that, we are working in collaboration with the Fatima Group and Project Arts on a project that I may get the name wrong, and apologies to the people that are doing it, but I think it's Rewind, Fast Forward, Record is the name of the project, and that's going to be a travelling project that's going through the country next year. Lots of other exciting research and collections happening there.
And I know people can follow you on Twitter, on Instagram, social medias. I'm sure if you just search Queer Culture Ireland, they'll pop up there. Thank you so much for joining us tonight in Culture Night, and I hope that you have a chance to experience some of the events happening this evening.
Thank you, Noah.
Thanks for joining us.
Not at all. Thanks for having us.
Next, we are going to go to, we spoke to, myself and some of my colleagues at TENI, the Transgender Equality Network Ireland, where you'll be able to learn a little bit more about what we do at TENI. So enjoy.
Brilliant turnout, and thank you so much for coming along.
name is Noah Halpin. I'm the Community Aid Officer at TENI, the Transgender Equality Network.
My name is Lilith. I'm the National Community Development Officer with TENI.
So what we do at TENI, which stands for the Transgender Equality Network Ireland, is we fight for the rights and equality of trans people and non-binary people all across Ireland. We kind of focus on three main areas, so that would be education, advocacy and support.
And so it's important to have an organisation like TENI, which is a national organisation that, that talks to the unique challenges that the community faces.
My name's Sam Blankensey and I'm a member of the Board of Directors at Transgender Equality Network Ireland, and I identify as non-binary, so I use either they or he pronouns. The trans community in Ireland often isn't seen, and TENI provides a voice for the community in a number of different spheres, so going into employers and supporting them, working with people within healthcare, within the government, as well as supporting people on the ground and supporting the support groups that support the people on the ground.
Strikes are under attack! Stand up, fight back! Trans rights are under attack!
Everyone, I'm just looking at Twitter there and the hashtag's climbing. So keep tweeting and we'll try and hit number one.
So the trans community in the last few years have had, a number of triumphs when it comes to equality. Now we're still not quite 100% there, but I think one of our biggest triumphs in Ireland for the trans community was legal gender recognition legislation. It means that trans people who identify as male or female can self-identify their gender, and that means we can legally change our gender and our names on legal documents such as our birth certificates, our passports, anything and everything that needs your name and gender, to be honest.
To see that go from a court case and from the GRAG report that came out in 2012, which was taking the UK legislation, which is requires a panel of doctors and it requires you to be diagnosed and to be divorced, and it was only over 18s, to what we got in 2015. It was just an unrecognisable piece of legislation.
Yeah, and I cannot talk about gender recognition without talking about an amazing woman called Dr. Lydia Foy, who was a trans woman and began her fight to get her name on her birth cert. That's all she wanted. In, I think it was 1992, she began that fight. And that all took up to 2013, when they still hadn't enacted legislation. She took them back to court again to get it put in place, and it was then that the trans community came on board, TENI came on board, got right in behind Dr. Foy, and in 2015 the legislation was enacted.
What we really tried to do is show the human side of all of this, so we did high visibility work in the media, but really we went and we had lawyers and we had doctors speaking with us, but honestly my job in that was to talk about my story and talk about what it meant for me to be seen as a woman legally by society, and the fact that wasn't how I identified. Unfortunately, we didn't get everything we could want, so non-binary recognition is a really big one, recognition for under 16s, and also there's some kind of more like logistical issues that need to be worked out, but we really did achieve an awful lot by really just telling stories, human stories.
I think another triumph that's worth mentioning is visibility. And only in the past few years, trans people are now so much more visible in society. We're much more visible in film and on television and sports, and we're seeing trans people rising and being successful, in more recent years. And I think that's a massive triumph for the community, a community that was very much underground and very much thought of as ill or weirdos, where people are beginning to realise that we are like everybody else. We're your nurses, we're your kids' teachers, we're the guys that pick up your bins on a Tuesday. We're just like everybody else, and people are starting to realise that because trans people are feeling much more safe to come out and be visible in society.
Seeing TENI's network of support groups expand is a huge triumph. To see the community really blossom together.
From my perspective, I think you know, we had that triumph in 2015 with gender recognition. I came out about a year after that, and for me, in terms of like big wins or that sort of thing, I unfortunately haven't seen it. I think that there is a lot of personal triumphs that, you know, people have. You know, more trans people feel like they can come out and they can live their lives. But in terms of, you know, what trans people need, unfortunately things have continued to deteriorate and get worse and worse and worse.
Trans rights are under attack. Stand up, fight back. Trans rights are under attack. Stand up, fight back. Trans rights are under attack. Stand up, fight back.
I think we can't talk about triumphs and wins without talking about the struggles and the inequalities that the trans community in Ireland still face.
Probably kind of two main things. One is legal recognition for trans people under 16 and non-binary people, which still isn't the case. And the other is just the horrific situation that healthcare currently is in this country.
So we still in Ireland work off this really archaic, non-evidential based model of care that really pathologizes trans people. We consider in our health system being trans as a psychiatric disorder.
When I was starting to transition in 2012, I was seen by a clinical psychologist and diagnosed, and 3 months later was attending Loughlinstown, given hormone treatment, and then I was able to kind of move along the system quite quickly, and by 2014 I was quite happy with my body. And so that's about 3 years after I came out initially, and I waited about a year to want to be medically transitioning. Today, 3 years after somebody has even gotten themselves referred to a medical practitioner, they won't have seen them.
And in Ireland, if you want to get hormone replacement therapy, you have to wait for the one service in the country that provides that to trans people, and their waiting list is currently 3.5 years long. And this is just for hormone replacement therapy that GPs provide every single day to cisgender people.
The National Gender Service was set up in 2018. They've gotten a lot of resources, and you know, all that I can see is that they've used those resources to erect even more and more barriers for trans people to access bodily autonomy.
And for people who say that trans healthcare isn't essential or that it's not life-saving, you know, I'd very much argue that. The only study ever done in Ireland with the trans community would state that, you know, I think it's 82% of trans people had suicidal ideation or had attempted suicide prior to medical treatment, and that dropped to 0% after that.
It used to be the case that that people under 18, there was a child and adolescent service, but that service has collapsed. And so no one under 18 currently has access to healthcare for trans people on the public system.
There's more resources being put into trans healthcare, but those resources have been accompanied by gatekeepers and a huge waiting list. And like, when you think that it was a 3-month waiting list in 2012 and today it's a 3-year waiting list, that's quite scary.
The model of care that we use here, and I use the word care very flippantly, is based on a system of having to prove yourself and not based off a system of being believed. So what we do need to do is introduce international best practice standards of care by WPATH, which is the World Association for Transgender Health. And that means an informed consent model.
Trans people have a right to the same access to healthcare that cis people do, without having to be pathologized, without having to have hours-long psychiatric assessments and psychological assessments and meetings with, you know, all sorts of other clinicians in order to just get to be able to make decisions for themselves about their own bodies.
Something wonderful that I love seeing now is younger trans people growing up in a much more accepting environment than, say, I would have, or trans people that are older than me. So, you know, I'm loving seeing, you know, kids feeling comfortable to come out younger, and their friends are knowledgeable and support them, and their families want to learn and want to support their children. And you know, that's not an Ireland I saw 10 years ago.
In 2012, I was the youngest person who would speak openly, and I was 18, and really one of the reasons I was being asked to speak was because nobody else my age was in a place where their parents were supportive and that they felt comfortable speaking in front of a camera or in front of or on the radio. But now 18 would be very old to be seen as a young trans person.
That leads to a happier life when kids are able to come out young and are accepted just for who they are and not who people think they are.
So that was listening to some of the folks over at Tenny about the amazing and very necessary work they do. But back here in the studio, we're going to chat to our first performer of this evening. Really excited to listen to and chat to Hallie. Hi.
Hello.
Welcome
nice
to
to be
Outhouse.
Here. Thank you.
Thanks for joining us. Is this your first time in Outhouse?
It is, yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
You'll have to come back now.
I
That
will,
you know that
yeah.
we exist.
Now that I know it's here, I definitely will.
So you've had a busy 2021, even though it's been locked down.
Yeah, I've just been trying to get music out there because I have a load of stuff already recorded, so I'm just trying to get it all out.
Cool.
So yeah, it's been making loads of music videos, interviews, assets, now gigs as well, which is cool. Yeah.
So I'd seen you you were gigging yesterday in Cork.
Yeah.
Is that right? So you were supporting Hudson Taylor?
Yeah, they're my brothers.
Oh,
so
no
yeah,
way.
yeah.
Amazing.
They're real supportive of me, and they just were like, yeah, come along with us.
That's so nice.
Yeah,
okay, so you're musical family.
Yeah, we are
Unreal.
indeed.
And are you doing any more support gigs with them?
Yeah, we're gonna go up to Donegal tomorrow, up to Culdaff. So
Okay.
yeah, gonna do one more, and then yeah, hopefully gonna plan some gigs for December as well.
Unreal. You've released a single as well this week?
Yeah, just yesterday.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's called Should I
Congrats.
Almost Said I Love You.
Unreal.
I'm gonna play it later.
Amazing. We've all been there, almost. Saying I love you. Is that the song you're gonna play that song for us?
Yeah.
And okay, cool.
Cool.
Great. Well, we're gonna also probably hear 2 tracks from you tonight, so
Yeah.
we'll play that first, and then what's your plans for what's the next kind of plan for 2022 for you?
I think I'm gonna try just get another single out there, and then yeah, as I said, hopefully do a gig in December time, maybe a headline one. Let's see.
Nice.
Just try kind of
Yeah, do what you can. Cool. That's so exciting. Well, we're looking forward to hearing you, and cool.
Thank you.
Thanks, Will.
Yeah, thanks.
Shit, I almost said I love you. I stopped it coming out, just in case the words don't reach you. I'm not prepared for that. I'm not prepared for that. I don't know where it came from, but I don't want it gone. So I try in other ways to show you. Might be awkward but not wrong. Keep trying to tell myself the words are overrated, heavily complicated. 3 words make believe. I love you. I love you. I look away while you look at me and search around my face, but she can't find a word I'm hiding. I'm keeping it that way. I'm keeping it that way. All the things I've ever longed for never spoke so loud. Reaching out from somewhere far beyond me. Safe to say I'm freaking out. Keep trying to tell myself the words are overrated, heavily complicated. How hard can it be? You know I love you. I love you.
That was absolutely beautiful. Thanks so much, Hallie, for that. Kind of just want to listen to her sing all evening now, but we will be coming back to her shortly. And what we're going to check out now is we're going to go back to our Culture Night TV chatting to the people of Pride 2021. And this time we asked people what Pride meant to them.
Diversity and inclusivity, and just hopefully that we can move forward or just get somewhere better than we have been in the last 10 years. I feel like things have come along, and it's just about being more open and being more inclusive for all different ranges of people. And
to me personally, I suppose Pride just means being your authentic self, not being afraid to be seen or heard, and I don't know, just being a bad bitch and feeling okay about it.
You can be yourself at Pride. You don't have to hide
Any
anything.
emotions or anything, like, just be yourself.
You can be yourself. It's the one time a year that we get to open up and actually
Be yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also think it's a reminder to all the people who actually fought for our rights up until this day, during that way, because some people do forget, younger generations do forget. So it's good to have Pride that will remind us of that.
Yeah, what reminds me is what I've gone through with my queerness and how it's just all been worth it.
I think it's so important because I think homophobia is still rife, and I amn't queer, but I know from having a queer brother, he finds it really, really hard every day. Different kind of microaggressions that he's faced with in society. So it's so important to have Pride every year to just show that sense of solidarity and to show the LGBTQI community that we care and that they're accepted.
Well, I've met way more people. I felt more comfortable with myself at every Pride. I've just really come out of my shell and the closets, and it really helps.
I think Pride has that effect on everyone though. Like even anytime you come out on gay Pride, like it doesn't matter if you're gay or straight or anything like that. Everyone's just happy. Do you know what I mean? Everyone's just like kind of like happy to be here, happy to be out, and just like with everybody. So I'd say it brings unity. If anything, that would be a strong one.
I think honestly there's a real joy to the community and the celebration that doesn't exist in terms of straight culture. There's the unification of a community in itself that also embraces everyone, but it has quite a strong identity, and I think that doesn't exist in straight culture because straight culture can be a lot of other things, but it's definitely not a community.
Well, everyone has a different story and everyone is going to show themselves in different ways, and I think it's like a way where two people can come together a lot more when if they're on their own they have a lot more of a voice together.
Be comfy with yourself, do whatever you want, figure yourself out, be happy.
Here's the thing, at the end of the day, we all end up in a small box in the ground. So while you're here, you may as well make the most out of it and just like be who you are and be okay with that, because other people aren't living your life, you're living your life. So live it the way you want to. Yeah, very that energy.
So that was the second part of our Vox Pop of meeting people in Pride 2021. We're back here now though, we're going to hear another song from Hallie. This is one of her earlier released singles. It's called Fuck Fear.
Hold me down, I've got something to admit here. It's a matter of choice, I've just got to find my voice, dear. Our hands met at the back of her neck, dear. So neat, I swear we've met, I swear I've been here. Here, thinking of night when it's already morning. Fuck fear, I just wanna give myself to this moment. Not so matter of fact, I'm attempting to be brave, dear. Must I lose defenses? Oh, I wish that I felt safe here. 'Cause who I am's not at the bottom of my glass, dear. Thinking of night when it's already morning. Fuck fear, I just wanna give myself to this moment. Something I've not forgotten. Something I've not forgotten. Here, thinking of night when it's already morning. Fuck fear, I just wanna give myself to this moment.
So that was another mesmerising tune from Hallie. Make sure to check her out on Instagram and Spotify and keep an eye out for her gigs coming up in the near future. Next, we're going to go out of the studio again and we're going to check out some images from around the city on Culture Night. see some images from around the city on Culture Night. It's great to see people back out and about. But back here in the studio now, we're going to chat to singer-songwriter Gary Tiernan. Gary is a good friend of mine. He's been touring and gigging around Dublin for the last 10 years. Hi, Gary. Welcome.
Very welcome to be here.
Tell us about, is this your first kind of performance back since you've...
I did one performance for First Fortnight, just around after the first lockdown.
Yeah.
And since then, I've been in my bedroom
Okay.
writing songs. So such a relief to come back and see a stage and
It's
just have
nice,
the
isn't it?
cobwebs, Yeah.
So you've just finished recording your debut album.
Mhm.
What's that called?
In the Heart of Me. Yeah.
Okay, so you've been recording songs and stuff for the last 10 years and you finally put them all together?
Well, yeah, I recorded 2 albums previous to this.
Yeah.
And during lockdown, I wrote a bunch of songs, and I just felt like it would be a shame to waste them. And so I was going to have that as my 3rd album, but I'm going to go full on with this as my first album. Yeah.
Right, so you've got loads of backtrack of songs that
Yeah,
you're ready
yeah.
to release. You
Yeah,
just
yeah.
got it out there.
Yeah.
Okay, and you're going to play the debut single off your first album. It's called Somewhere.
It's called Somewhere, yeah. It was the title of the album is In the Heart of Me, and it was derived from this song. So it's Somewhere in the Heart of Me.
Perfect.
That's the line, yeah.
What's your plans after for the next few months? Do you want to get the album out, or is that going to be next
just
year?
before the lockdown, I was supposed to do a tour with Aslan, and that kind of fell through because of COVID.
Right.
And so that's in the pipeline now. So
Perfect.
as soon as I find that out, I'm going to get back on the road.
So you're good mates with Chrissy Dingham. You've done a few gigs with him in the past, haven't you? As far as I'm
I
aware.
wouldn't say we're good mates, but we know each other. Yeah.
Okay, modest. Okay, cool. Thanks. We're really excited to hear this.
All right.
Thanks, Gary.
Thanks.
Good luck.
Somewhere in the heart of me, I roam cobblestone streets. And somewhere in the heart of me, I'm a poet and my pen bleeds. I loved you more than you could know, but I see why you had to go. Something changed, there was a darkness in me. You had to fly, be free. And somewhere on Beale Street, I stroll along as if I belong. And somewhere in this melody is a man, he's trying to find a song. I loved you more than you could know, but I see why you had to go. Something changed, there was a darkness in me. You had to fly, be free. Oh, and somewhere under a pale moon sky, I play piano in a bar full of drunks, and the girls dance on stools, and I'm a one-man show. I loved you more than you could know, but I see why you had to go. And something changed, there was a darkness in me. You had to fly, be free. Now if you ever come back, and if you ever come back here, and if you ever find your way home, yeah, if you ever come back, if you come back here, I keep the fire lighting, just follow the chimney smoke. Oh, and somewhere in the heart of me, we're still stuck on that train. Oh, and somewhere in this heart of mine, I know that I'm to blame. Oh, and somewhere in the heart of me, somewhere in the heart of me, somewhere in the heart of me.
Thanks so much, Gary. We're looking forward to hearing Gary's new album. Make sure to check him out on Instagram, Gary Turner Music. Next up, we're going to go and look at a recording that we had chatting to Tony Walsh. Now, Tony Walsh is obviously very prolific on the queer scene in Ireland. He's an LGBT activist, journalist, and the founding editor of GCM magazine. He spoke to us about his famous lavender walks. They're queer culture walks around Dublin City. So we're going to see what he has to say.
Someone in Outhouse approached me to do a lavender walk in 2007 as part of Dublin Pride. And I suppose it was a recognition of people being hungry to investigate LGBT cultural heritage. So I asked my friend Senator David Norris if he'd do the walk with me. I should have actually factored in how much of a big draw he has, infinitely bigger than I was. So we ended up with over 100 people on a walking tour. Can you imagine? In the middle of a Saturday afternoon. And actually a friend of mine, Brendan Courtney, the TV presenter, took me aside at one point and Riley remarked, he said, you know, this is like a mini Pride parade. Actually, there's more people on this, I suspect, than Dublin's first Pride parade. And we're not even boozing. Needless to say, we had great fun. It was really, it was a warm-hearted and gorgeous deep dive into some of our shared histories, recent histories. And then afterwards I walked away from it and I thought, you know what, there's great merit in this. I mean, the highlights of the tour for me are standing outside the Central Bank and reminiscing about the Pride rally 2 days after the government reform abolishes the old Victorian British legislation and replaces it with an equal age of consent. And the Dice Man, Dublin's most beloved street performer, is there, dressed as a convict, dragging his chain and ball of oppression. It's a big styrofoam ball. And lesbian activist, feminist activist Izzy Kamikaze comes over with bold cultures. He's on the stage, it's all going off, and she makes a big dramatic flourish of cutting off his ball and chain of oppression. And then he does a striptease. It's just every time I'm outside the Central Bank, I just feel I'm reliving that moment again. And when I go down, a little while later, go down to the Hirschfeld Centre, the site of one of the world's earliest LGBT community centres, I often find myself having to hold it together. I feel it was the making of me as a man and it was the making of me as an activist. I mean, overall, apart from special moments, overall, I'm always piqued by the real interest and curiosity I see from people.
So interesting, because I'd heard very little. I'd heard of, I suppose, very little of what we were told today. And he's a great storyteller, so it was really interesting. You're kind of just listening to him talk and relay all of these moments from 2 years back, which I'd never heard. Obviously, knew of the key dates, knew of the decrimination, knew of obviously the marriage equality referendum, all of those and the links, but I suppose the ones going back in the 1800s, 1900s were really interesting. It was great, the little pockets around Temple Bar and how we're still quite in the nucleus of where it started as well. It's great.
I've always been interested in history, but it's marginalised history and histories that's excluded always has great appeal, and not just stuff that speaks directly to me as a gay man. I love ancient Egypt, and there's one of only 3 women pharaohs in ancient Egypt, and she caused a lot of trouble during her reign. Hatshepsut was her name. She usurped the throne, had a co-regency with her nephew, and he was really young, and then basically became a pharaoh in her own right. When she died, her nephew went about excising any records of her as a pharaoh, as a king. Her story is emblematic of the attempts that people go to, various societies all around the world since time immemorial, but the attempts people go to excise anything that they feel is threatening or anything that they feel is other. And I'm just fascinated in sort of like mining all of that, mining the reasons that provoke people into that type of extreme behavior, mining how people just feel they can't actually give any space to the lived experience of a subset, a cultural subset in society. Standing outside the Project Arts Centre is really good because it's sort of, I think it's instructive to homage that performing arts space and the role it's had in facilitating queer voices over the last more than 50 years, because it has been one of those few places that has done that with great merit and conviction and distinction. You know, at a time when lots of public venues, certainly statutory venues and even civil society venues were just reluctant to give us access, where we needed to have really important conversations. Repeatedly talk about the role of the role and value of safe spaces, sacred spaces, but spaces where people feel they can be themselves. Where, as I often say, where you can slough off your oppression and you can actually talk about your fears, you can recognize your fears and share them with other people. Cultural spaces are really important, because what are cultural spaces? But simply places where we can just imagine ourselves in all our complexity, you know, our multifaceted humanity, you know. We can actually describe them and platform them through spoken words, through theatre, through protest, through exhibitions. You know, all of that's really important, and it's distinctly important for minorities who historically haven't seen themselves represented in all of those various media. So I've always do the tours during Pride. I've done them for Culture Night, but obviously it's going to be a different beast this year. It is a different beast this year. And then I do them, if I'm asked, I do bespoke tours for corporates and NGOs as well. That's always fun, because you know what it's like. You can tell the same story, repeat it over and over again, and it always changes that little bit in the retelling depending on the audience. And that's actually fun. It's also sort of keeps me on point in terms of enlivening it for people who may know nothing of the anecdotes and information that I'm sharing with people. I get a joy out of just pulling people by the nose to the information trough and going, you know, dip into that and see what you get from it, smell it. There's loads of riches there waiting to be explored.
And that was the famous, or maybe some may say the infamous, godfather of gay himself, Tony Walsh, talking about his LGBT walking towards Dublin, the Lavender Walks. And I would highly recommend, if you get an opportunity to do one of Tony's Lavender Walks, please do it. One of the best tours I have ever done. But for now, I personally feel very privileged to have actor Matthew Malone with us today. So Matthew is currently, you are currently acting in Philly McMahon's play Once Before I Go, which you're opening very soon. And I'm very excited because I will be at the premiere, so I'm very much looking forward to it.
Oh, very good.
So can you tell us a little bit about Once Before I Go?
Yes, of course. So yeah, we're in rehearsals at the moment. We have 1 week to go, so I'm really in the thick of it. We ran the whole play today on the stage, so it felt very real. For the first time since? Yeah, for the first time doing it on the stage. So Philly has written this beautiful play, and it's a 3-act classical play at the Gate Theatre. except I suppose what's unusual about it is that Philly has written it about queer people, and he's written it about a group of queer friends, and he tracks their journey across 3 different times. So I play Guy Bernard, who is what I think we'd refer to today as a radical queer.
We do love a radical queer.
He's a radical queer. He is so brave and he's so visible, and he is caught up in the storm of an Ireland that's very oppressed, but is also full of really brave people that you and I stand on the shoulders of.
Of course.
And they also get affected by the AIDS crisis, and Bernard gets directly affected by that. But it's also a love story with lots of laughs, and there's a lot in it.
That must be really difficult for you, well, not difficult, but I'd like to know what it means to you. You're playing a gay man, who lived through a time that is totally different to the time that we're living through. Like you mentioned the AIDS epidemic and things like that. What's it mean to you to be able to play the part of Bernard, who was living in a totally different world to what you and I are today?
It's really special. It's that overused word, privilege. It does feel like a privilege because you're trying to embody and hold this history that you're a part of, but that you didn't experience, and that I've benefited from so much work and loss and pain that others have gone through, and a huge amount of care. So you feel, it's funny you were mentioning Tony Walsh earlier, you feel the spirits of these like queers before you.
Tony that we look up to.
Exactly, that we look up to, and
from.
Tony is, with us from that time, and there's far more people that are thankfully still here, but there's so many people that aren't here, and there's so many people that didn't get to be here in this way. So it feels very scary, but also very, very beautiful.
I could totally get that, and I guess there's a certain amount of kind of self-education that has to come with playing a role like that, and empathy and learning and things like that. But I think it's a really important story. I think it's really important that we don't forget the people that went before us.
Absolutely.
But what I also want to ask you is, as an actor, with COVID-19, you've not been able to be on a stage for nearly 2 years. What's it like being back?
It's great. I mean, we meet audiences in a week, and that for me will be the first time to be with an audience in a theatre and on a stage. So
and how are you feeling about that? Are you nervous? Are you excited a bit about?
I can't wait. I'm just so excited.
Really?
I'm not. I mean, I've regular amount of nerves that we'd all have, but it's so exciting for us to be back with audiences. Theatre doesn't really happen. Theatre isn't complete if the audience isn't there, and it's a communal experience. And this play really will make people commune in something.
Well, from an audience perspective, I am also very excited to be back in the theatre and see you perform. So thank you so much for joining us tonight. I really, really appreciate it, and I hope you get to go to some nice events now for the rest of the evening.
Thanks so much.
Thank you for joining us, Matthew.
You too. No, thank you.
And now we are going to go to some more. Some more people enjoying themselves at Pride 2021. So enjoy these clips.
In Ireland is way more accepted than I thought it would be, and in a much more different way than in France, and I prefer it here.
Well, I think acceptance and recognition of everyone, no matter what colour, no matter what they look like, just acceptance.
My only addition to that is I think we can go away from the rainbow and start a spectrum flag, because there's so many broad diversity, which is great. I mean, when I started off and when Mike started off, it was just loads of guys with mustaches in the back room,
I came out when I was 13. I'm 24 now, and I know when I first came out there would have been a lot of judgment, but I've noticed as the years go on, people are a lot more easygoing, they're way more open-minded, and they're more open to the idea of people just exploring who they are and being okay about that. So that's stunning.
Yeah, it's kind of just similar in rural Ireland as well. Like, you wouldn't think it in the country, you'd think they'd be a little bit backwards, but they're actually a lot more accepting than I thought. Like, even when I moved up there, like when I was gay and I mentioned that I was gay, no one cared. They literally did not care. So I'm in progress.
I think that it's something that in Ireland and in like Irish society it's more important than in most places because of how far we have come, and I think we still have some more to go. So I think it's really important that society gets behind it. But I think, I think that you can see on the street and you can see from the atmosphere that it is something that's really important.
It's like, so basically there's not a lot of homophobic people out because they know that they're going to be outnumbered today. So, you know, I think that's cool.
We're married, by the way.
Oh, congratulations. Yes. How long? Since 2013, so, you know, it's 7 years now.
Well, it's stuck.
8 years.
Oh, yes, 8 years. You see, this is how odd now you know who the husband is.
I actually like it because it's really friendly country, but the only bad thing that I can say is the weather. But for the rest, it's such a lovely country and really friendly. They don't care how you look, what you like. They just are like friendly people.
I think just to celebrate the LGBT community and how far we've come in terms of like rights for everyone and things like that. Obviously, there's some things we still need to work on as a society, but since the same-sex marriage referendum and everything, so much work has been done. So it's just to show that solidarity and show that, you know, we all love everyone in our community, no matter, you know, what sexuality you have, etc., etc.
Even myself, I feel like I need to educate myself a lot more, be more of a better ally, and just read up and try and figure out how I can do that. But I think that things like this hopefully will bring on more events and just more of a conversation into more inclusive ways of living.
For me personally, there's a courage to explore diversity. That straight culture is very comfortable being the same old, and that just exploring something new that may be a bit challenging, that's what gay culture really does a lot. Because that's why there's so many extra letters on the LGBT. Then there's Q and then there's plus plus. It's because as more people come to the fore and say, look, we need to be represented too. It's a big open culture, and I'd love that to have been the case when I was a kid.
I think Ireland has come so far in the last 10 years that it's almost hard to recognise what society was like before. But I think the key thing there is acknowledging that we're still not the whole way. Across a number of fronts, and LGBTQ being one of them, abortion being another. I think societal attitudes are changing, but it's always really important to know where we were. And not so long ago, we were a very conservative society, and we still have a long way to go. So it's just always important to remember that.
And that was just our last clip of the Out and About in Dublin Pride for 2021. Back in the studio now, we're going to chat to Dublin-based poet Mark Ward.
Hey.
Hi, Mark.
How are you doing?
Welcome to Outhouse.
Thank you. It's beautiful here.
Yeah, is this your first time here?
No, I've been here many a time, but you have it done up lovely.
Yes,
Absolutely
it's
gorgeous.
still advice for the evening. So, Mark, you're going to recite 3 of your original poems for this evening. Yeah, that's going to be amazing. We're super excited for that. The 3 poems, you just briefly explained them to me. They're 3 completely different kind of themes.
Yeah, I suppose they're all kind of queer poetry related, but one's about Greek myth, one's about kind of HIV in Dublin in the 90s, and one's about kind of the performative nature of kind of being gay and kind of in a straight world, I suppose.
Amazing. Okay. And do the poetry that you write, does it tend to be kind of based on your own lived experiences, or is it kind of like a cultural experience of?
all kinds of things,
Yeah.
my own lived experience,
Mm.
pure fiction,
Yeah.
news stories, paintings. I have a book on, I'm working on a book of response poems of paintings by queer painters. So all
Amazing.
kinds of things.
Good. And what's your so you said the book is coming out soon? You've got a
Yeah,
book on
not
it?
that book. I have a book coming out in May 2022 with Salmon Poetry called Nightlight. So
Amazing.
that's my first collection coming out next year.
Oh, unreal. Oh god, that's exciting.
Yeah, super exciting.
Okay, and if people want to check out some of your works, what's the best way to do it? Kind of
Yeah, I have personal website is a stintinyourspotlight.wordpress.com, and I have a queer poetry journal which takes
Yeah.
submissions from all over the world called Impossible Archetype. We've
Amazing.
just celebrated our 10th issue and 5 years. So you
Wow.
can find us on WordPress as well.
Okay, amazing. Okay, so yeah, you're gonna go and do
Okay,
your pieces
great.
now. Amazing. I'll grab that off you. Thank you so much. Thanks, Mark. Oh, be careful.
This first poem is called Icarus Dreams of the Future. Icarus dreams of the future as he falls, flailing his featherless arms into his final microsleep. Those tiny ruptures that ruled him and made him appear reckless. The muscle memory pulled him up higher towards the unforgiving eye of the sun, burning off the glue holding him together. Daedalus is nowhere to be seen, and he falls, securing himself inside the dream world where everyone is aloft with wings, with ships, with strings and oars gliding through the air. He is not falling. He floats by what is possible and doesn't let the ground wake him. This next poem is based on a statistic I stumbled across on the internet. In 1992, there was roughly 75 people who were diagnosed with HIV/AIDS in Dublin. And this is called 1992. Dublin is a small city, and behind my eyelids I could see the 74 others who contracted it. The regulars slow faded, leaving behind a bar stool no one had the heart to take. We danced around the issue. Some burst through doors half mad and encephalitic, although we didn't know the words then, looking for their old bodies. Their windows were sheet metal, harder to break, and I played the historian, removed from it, free to document our world. In under a year, we were made legal, decades after our neighbors. This forced tolerance took ages to land. I wrote rough notes on the coasters about the men I refused to be part of. I lusted over stunning non-starters, a conversation I could not have. Those beautiful boys, untouchable, we all were. I wrote until closing time. This last poem is a response poem to a queer poet from the 70s called John Wieners, and it's called A Poem for Actors, and thank you for having me. The room is filled with light, our bodies heaving with air. We are present in a way no one understands the lives we flee from. Documenting impermanence is a form of strength. This palmed love is codified among the slats where we distill into performance, the lines alive, transformed, an utterance from the author's burden, the audience's expectation. What this means is our translucence, the utter destruction of days. For this is what we are made for. That moment of disappearance where we are done with pretending we are not the dawn, backlighting the empty stage, the applause. Now we are your disbelief, your pause at our encroaching night. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks so much for that, Mark. That was amazing. Next, we're going to go over to the mobile journalists and just check in with them and see what they've been up to around the city this evening.
I'm here tonight in Outhouse with Eva O'Donovan, and we are promoting an exhibition called Chrysalis, which features trans feminine people in Ireland. So, what are your influences when it comes to an exhibition like this?
Oh, I look to artists like Alphonse Mucha and Gustav Klimt, Ian Uglo as well, I like. But this painting here of Carul actually is a really perfect example, because these images that are in the textile are very closely related to Muka's work. So Carol loves art as well. And so we had a really instant bond over those artists, and they really kind of asked me to consider that those, especially Muka's work, when I was painting the pictures. So the fabric was exactly the right choice.
So what's your process when it comes to stuff like this and the stuff we see upstairs?
So I start with the textile, and I find something that I absolutely adore. I go to markets, I find things online, I buy textiles in high-end interior shops, but it has to be something that really speaks to me. And then from there, I will stretch it and turn it into a canvas. And then I select the image that works on it. So the size of the pattern, the energy within the fabric, all influences then the kind of figure and the silhouette maybe that's going to be put into it. And then once I've decided on the two that I think are going to work together, I will sketch it out with paint or with tailor's chalk I tend to use because I can remove it. Because it's really important that the first marks are put down correctly, because I can't go in or out of the figure, otherwise the textile is destroyed. So that's basically, and then I just start painting from the face out, and I kind of tend to decide as I go how much I'm going to paint and how much I don't paint.
Okay, as I said before, Chrysalis features trans feminine people in Ireland. Is diversity an important part of your work, and has it always been like that?
Yeah, it's well, obviously post Chrysalis it's really important. Before that, I didn't even have a huge awareness of the need for inclusion in art. But it was only when I started to put out feelers I realised that that there's a real void in art portrayal of different diverse groups, ethnically or able-wise or sexuality or whatever. So I think it's really important to use things like painting and art and film and to show diversity in a positive light.
So obviously Culture Night means there's a lot of artists around everywhere you go. There's a new art exhibition. What's the importance of being able to show your work on a night like this?
Oh, it's amazing. I mean, there's only so many featured shows, I suppose, on Culture Night. And to have it in Outhouse is really poignant, because I started the exhibition here originally. We put out a call, TENI, Transgender Equality Network Ireland, put out a call to the trans feminine community, and the first 14 people that came forward, we brought them all here, and I had a stylist and a photographer and a few crew, as you might call them, my family, and they kind of so we set up all the shots and we took all the photographs, and so it all happened here in the Red Room originally. And so they've all come home, and it's really nice to see them back up there again.
Well, brilliant. Thank you, Eva. If you want to see any of Eva's work and Chrysalis, it'll be here for the next month in the Red Room of the Outhouse.
Thank you.
And thank you so much to our mobile journalists who've been buzzing around Dublin city, soaking up the atmosphere of Culture Night 2021. And I'm very lucky to have with me today Alicia McConnell from Sporting Pride. So welcome. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having Sporting Pride here.
Speaking of Sporting Pride, firstly, can you explain to us exactly what Sporting Pride is?
Sure, absolutely. We have a really simple mission, which is just to get the LGBTQ+ community active. As we know, there's percentage-wise less queer people active, and so we're working with a lot of sports to try to create events that people can be a part of, trying to just be more diverse and inclusive for everyone to play.
Yeah, because now I understand that to a degree because I played rugby for many years, and I know there is this kind of locker room mentality and all that kind of thing. So what do you think the importance of LGBT inclusion in sport is? Not solely in, inclusive teams, but in general.
Yeah, well, I really feel like there's a sport for everyone, and it's supposed to be fun and engaging. And, it's important that you engage your body and you're healthy and well. And, just a few weeks back with Sport Ireland, we did Let's Be Visible campaign.
Mm-hmm.
And so what's important is that it's really all about health and wellness. And often, we can meet at bars or dance clubs, and dancing is really healthy. But sometimes, it doesn't have to be around late nights or drinking or, it's just... Exactly. And some people have had more negative experience playing sport. We want it to be fun for everyone to participate.
Yeah, because sport is a culture in itself. And that's something I always say is there's the LGBTQI plus community is a culture in itself, so is sport. But what are you looking to do at Sporting Pride at the moment? I know that you work with the community mainly, and what are the goals going forward now for Sporting Pride and inclusivity?
Yeah, well, we're super excited that we did get Bank of Ireland grant.
Amazing.
And that is amazing. And so what we really hope to do is not only on our website, sportingpride.ie, is have a multitude of events that people participate in with different sports, but also have a list of resources.
Yes.
We list all the different LGBTQ plus clubs that are all over Ireland. We're trying to be more in rural communities and in cities. So we're trying
diversity and
we're trying to expand so it's not just cities.
Yeah,
it's more smaller communities. So.
Because I think the LGBTQI plus community, especially in rural parts of Ireland, can feel an awful lot cut off from the rest of the world. And I guess me personally living in Dublin City, I don't feel like that. But maybe if we could bring inclusive sporting to rural Ireland, people can feel more of part of a community.
Yeah, absolutely. And some sports, we've done some things with triathlon, with sailing, with Athletics Ireland. The FAI now has a diversity person, the GAA does. So they're trying to host specific sort of queer events so that people can just have fun and play together and not feel like they're being judged or have to worry about what they say or what they wear or who they are. Just be yourself and have fun. So that's what it's about.
Really interesting you say that, because I know the GAA referee, David Goh, who came out a few years ago, has been making strides in GAA for LGBT players, which is very important because it's a very masculine dominated sport often. But I want to know as well where people can find you. So if they're watching tonight and they're saying, God, I'd love to be involved in Sporting Pride, I'd love to be involved in inclusive sport, where can they find you? Are you on social media or?
Yes, just Google Sporting Pride. And we're usually the first one that comes up, and all different social media, Instagram and Twitter and such. And we'll list all the events we've had. Plus, we've got blogs on mental health and the benefits of sport. So we've got a lot of resources of whether it's information about Athlete Ally or trans athletes and inclusion in sport. So it's information, it's about clubs, it's where you can play, and it's a variety of sports. So we've got lots of good information on our website and hope people can tune in to check it out.
Well, that's excellent. And I'm very much looking forward to seeing what you all do next and following on all the competitions that might be coming up. But thank you so much, Alicia, for joining us here today. And if you want to get in touch with Sporting Pride, you know exactly where to go, Alicia just said. So thank you so much again for joining us. And now we're going to run into a few images taken over the course of Culture Night. So please do enjoy these images.
that was some images from Culture Night around the city. And back in the studio now, we're here with our next performer for the evening. So Birdwoman is with us. Hi.
Hi, how are you?
Good, good. Welcome to Outhouse.
It looks great.
Yeah, is it your first time here?
Yeah.
Oh wow, okay. You'll have to come back and check it out now that you know where we are.
Absolutely.
So what are you going to be performing for us this evening?
I'm performing 2 pieces,
Yeah.
1 poem and 1 song.
Amazing.
I'm sort of a hybrid artist.
Yes.
I do performance poetry and also music, and I can't decide which one I like more.
Perfect.
So I'm just going to do them both.
And I've also seen now, if my research skills are correct, that you do some actual visual art as well.
I do.
Perfect.
Yes.
Oh, amazing. So multidisciplinary.
That's
there we
me.
go. That's
yeah.
the word. And is this your first kind of gig or like performance since probably what, a year and a half more?
It is. Like, I mostly made art during the lockdown. I didn't do a lot of the performance. I did a couple of random streams, but like, no, this is my first venture back out, and I'm
excited,
vulnerable.
Oh, okay. I see.
But
I
also
see.
excited.
Well, this is a good, nice, happy, safe environment to do it in.
Yeah.
You know, and you've got a backing singer with you this evening.
Yes,
So you're gonna
Keogh and I have been working together for a few months now. We had a show in Whelan's, but it had to be rescheduled.
Okay. Oh, great. So you're looking forward to. You have a few gigs coming up then after that, or are you just?
She's loads of gigs. I don't.
Amazing.
So if anybody
Okay.
is looking
You'll have to
you
bring
know.
her back as you're back and singing then. Okay, cool. Well, we're super excited to see what you have in store, and thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Cheers. Cool. Do you want to give the mic to Veronica?
This is a new poem called Growth Spurt. I just let that part of myself exist. I didn't flinch. I ignored the rush of shame that inevitably came, and I just let it live there. That part of me that I kind of hated, that part of me that narrates the same tired, worn story that really has no relevance to the reality of my life today. It's just a flash of a thought from the mind of the person that I used to be. An old 78 spinning the same old story endlessly on a dusty record player in the corner of a room I haven't been in since 1993. All those labels inherited from school teachers and their archaic reports, animated like cartoon characters doing some sort of musical theatre number in my head about words that stick and become labels that form personalities that wreak havoc on our daily lives. The old me is embarrassed and wants to apologise for that moment. But the real me knows that this sort of carry-on is exactly the kind of thing I do when I'm at my most free, but I tend to edit it out because I don't want to be too overwhelming. Basically, it's the very embodiment of my authentic self. And if I'm going to stand here and preach about healing, it's exactly the sort of thing I'm going to be embracing, and this is all very new to me. Healing, I'm learning, is like more of a gradually fading thing. A lowering of the volume of all the voices that tell you these stories about all the things that you should and should not be doing. And then, one day, an opening. And you can begin using that extra space in your brain to spend more time thinking and getting excited about where you're going and the life you want to start building. And then, when the ideas and the inspiration starts arriving, you actually have the energy to take action because you're not completely worn out from all the self-loathing. I mean, the voices, they're still there. But you've had a chat with them. You've said, look it, I see you. I hear you. I feel you. You stay in your lane. I'll stay in mine. And I'll tune in again from time to time for research purposes or during those dark nights that force me to fight for the light again. But this is no longer working for me. Your stories, they're just not resonating with the reality that I am now creating. And whoever is listening, I'm not saying this is easy. And I really don't want to put you off the whole thing completely because first, before anything, you're going to have to feel everything. called Tribes. It's a song about belonging. I thought my tribe was someplace outside of my own skin. I went searching the streets for belonging before I belong to this fine human. I belong to this fine human. And we're all like human stars. We've got light in our DNA. We're transmitting on a frequency of 8 hertz on a good day. On a good day. No, we don't know exactly where we're going, but we're committed to showing out, 'cause we know we're standing on everything we need. 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 No, we don't know exactly where we're going. No, we don't know exactly where we're going. No, we don't know exactly where we're going. No, we don't know exactly where we're going, but we're showing up. We're standing on everything that we need. We're standing on everything we need. Don't you know we're standing on everything we need? We're standing on everything. Don't you know we're standing on everything we need? Standing on oh no, we're standing on everything we need. Yeah. We are the creators of great worlds. We do not need to know. We create as we go. We are the creators of great worlds. We do not need to know. We create as we go. We're standing on everything we need. We're standing on everything we need. And oh, we're standing on everything we need. We're standing on everything we need. We're standing on everything we need. You know we're standing on everything we need.
Guys, thank you so much. That was really lovely. Birdwoman and Brona. Next up, we're going to go to a clip from Dublin Frontrunners. So Culture Night went out and chatted to Ireland's largest LGBT sporting group. They were training in the Phoenix Park, and we went over and caught up with them. So have a look at that.
My name is Conor Byrne. I am the chairman of the Dublin Frontrunners and I'm here being interviewed as part of Culture Night. Dublin Frontrunners has been running for about 16 years. It's Ireland's largest LGBTQI+ sports club, and we're just shy of 300 members at the moment. So over the last 16 years we've grown from having maybe 10-15 members when it was first started to nearly 300. So when it first started, it was basically done just like a group of friends who kind of got together. They were interested in running and things like that, so they pulled it together. It was a very small group of people, and ever since then it's just grown and grown and grown. They've developed it a lot. One of the major things that they did was the Dublin Pride Run, which is our flagship event. Kind of kicks off the Pride Festival every year, and that's grown massively as well. It was quite small when it started, and this year we did a virtual Pride Run, unfortunately because of COVID, and we had nearly 1,000 people sign up to do a virtual Pride Run. Normally we'd have about 1,200, so we're still kind of similar numbers to where we've been pre-COVID, which was fantastic. I think particularly this year it was really important that we do something where, apart from us as a club felt drawn together, we were drawing in people, you know, who weren't necessarily club members, to kind of feel like they were contributing to something, that they were part of something, and that they were raising money toward charity. So that's the reason we did it. Personally, I became a member about 6 years ago, and I signed up to do a Couch to 5K. I run very sporadically myself, but I wasn't any great shakes at it, and I decided that I would probably be better off being trained on how to run properly, get a good pace and all that sort of thing. So I signed up to do the Couch to 5K and I've been a member ever since. I have to say that during lockdown it was a lifesaver to be able to go out for a run. I know people talked a lot about mental health in relation to the lockdown isolation. I live on my own, and there were days where I found it very hard that I hadn't seen people for a couple of days, but the benefit of getting outside, getting a bit of fresh air, getting your heart rate up, all those sorts of things really kind of helps. I mean, everybody has days where the work's been an absolute nightmare and you just need to be able to forget about it. One of the best things you can do is, obviously, if you can go for a walk, great. If you can go for a run, even better. It just really, really helps. Gets the endorphins pumping, all those sorts of things.
So, well, obviously it's a good way to get fit, but also from a social point of view, there's the last couple of years obviously haven't been great because of the pandemic, but normally there's a very good social element, and so I'd absolutely encourage people to join. And there's every level as well, so even if you're not that great a runner, you know, and there's training as well, normally on a Monday night, so it can build up your fitness levels. So
the runs help in terms of my fitness. I think running with a club, running with other people can kind of push you a bit more to maybe run a bit faster or do longer distances. I also run for the social aspect of it as well, like meeting like a friendly bunch of people. And as I said, it's only my second run, but really enjoy the group so far.
Well, it's really good for a base level of fitness. I've definitely noticed it's good as well because you're always kind of tracking against your own progress. So in the 2 years that I've been running, I've run a lot farther and a lot faster. But also it's a really great way to meet people. So I've met lots of new people through the club as well. So it's really good socially too.
For me, it's completely broadened my horizons. I think the majority of people on the LGBTQ community will have a core group of friends that they may have known from college or possibly even school or from work, which you're very, very close core group of friends. And then I had that, and then when I joined the club, all of a sudden my horizons just expanded exponentially. I've made lifelong friends in the club. There are people from different countries that I'm sure I never would have met unless I joined the club, different ages, all those sorts of things. So for me, that's the most positive part of being a member of the club, is that it just puts you in touch with so many different people from so many different backgrounds, and you're all here to run, but then you all get to know each other. There are people who would be happy to run a 5K once a week, and then and everyone in between, up to people who are training for a marathon. So we have all sorts of members, all sorts of levels of fitness, all sorts of ages, all sorts of abilities. So that's one of the best things about it. It's open to anybody. They can find information on our social media platforms, on our website, dublinfrontrunners.ie. We are an LGBTQ plus club, but you don't have to be a member of that community to join up. We're open to absolutely anybody to join. So men, women, transgender, old, young, whatever, anybody's ability. The great thing about running is it's a really democratic sport. It doesn't matter what age or your ability, everybody can run to a certain level, to a certain distance, to a certain pace.
I definitely say, like, next time the Pride Run rolls around, like, give it a shot. Like, they do a Couch to 5K program as well to, like, get you into the mood, into the zone. And, like, even if you think you hate running, because I hated running, like, just challenge yourself to try and take part, because, like, you'll actually be really surprised. Like, it's the running outside in a nice environment and the running in a social atmosphere that really does it for you.
Yeah, made some very good friends here. I also met my husband actually in the running group, so that was good. Win-win.
Yeah, I would say absolutely sign up, join. Whether it's to get fit or to meet new people, I think it's great if you can combine those two things together. Yeah, join the Dublin Front Runners.
And that was Dublin Frontrunners. Make sure to check them out if you feel like joining their sporting group. I'm back here now in the studio with Steve Kennedy from Acting Out. Now, Acting Out is the theatre and performance group for the LGBT plus community in Dublin. So welcome, Steve.
Thanks so much, Sarah.
You're pretty used to these surroundings because this is where Acting Out rehearse.
That's quite right, yeah.
Yeah. What are you, so you're doing a performance for us this evening from a poem from Dublin Pride, is that right?
That's right. We had a project in Dublin Pride called the Queer Poetry Project. Because we hadn't been able to rehearse in person much during the pandemic, partially to combat the isolation, partially to, you know, do more active work.
Yeah.
We got poems from queer creators and created films of us performing them and broadcast them as part of Pride. So I'm doing one of those poems for you here tonight.
Amazing, amazing. Excited about that. So you're back rehearsing and stuff, as far as I'm aware. So what's the next kind of, what's the next performance or play that you guys are putting on?
So we have a play coming out called Best Served Cold in Theatre 36 at the Teachers Club. That's in the third week in November.
Amazing.
And we're doing rehearsals open to the public come January. Regular weekly workshops.
Okay, so people can just sign up and
absolutely, open to anybody at all.
Amazing, amazing. What's the kind of, is this your first then kind of in-person performance then in the last year or so?
Actually, yeah, I'd say it is.
Yeah, and how do you find, like, you know, as obviously you're used to being on stage and performing, has it been difficult for you not being able to get out and do that?
Yeah, well, less than missing the performance, I missed the connection with the other actors, you know?
Of course. And what, as regards Acting Out, how long have you guys been running? Has it been going around quite a while?
More than a decade at this point. Okay. A very active group. And it's been so exciting to be part of it and make those connections with the members of the LGBTQ community.
How long have you been with them yourself?
4 years now.
Okay, amazing. All right, well, whenever you're ready, we'll be excited to hear your poem.
Absolutely.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
I'll grab that off you. Thanks.
The Men Are Weeping in the Gym by Andrew McMillan. The men are weeping in the gym, using the hand dryer to cover their sobs. Their hearts have grown too big for their chests. Their chests have grown too big for their shirts. They are dressed like kids who have forgotten their games kit. They are crying in the toilet. And because they have built themselves as statues, this must mean that God has entered them. They are wringing their faces like sweat towels in the sink. Their veins are about to burst their banks. They are flooding out of themselves onto the tiles. They have turned water into protein shakes. They have got too close to the mirrors. They have got too close to the glass. And now they are bleeding in the pools of their own faces, the lines of them at the decline press, the bicep curl, waiting, staring straight ahead, swearing that the wetness on their cheeks is perspiration, that the words they mutter as they lift are meaningless, that they feel nothing as the muscle tears itself from itself, that they don't hear the thousands of tiny fracturings needed to build something stronger.
Thanks so much, Steve. That was Steve Kennedy from the Acting Out group. Next up, we go over to a VT where Dublin Culture Night went to speak to the resident historian in the Epic Museum. He spoke to us about the current exhibition that's going on there. It's about queer culture and the experiences of the LGBT community, both in Ireland and abroad.
Anywhere you go, you belong. Anywhere you say, anywhere.
My name is Dr. Morris J. Casey and I'm the historian in residence here at Epic, the Irish Immigration Museum and the Department of Foreign Affairs. And broadly, I'm a historian of progressive politics in Ireland and the diaspora in the 20th century. Well, in part, this exhibition is a link to the recent transformation of Ireland that we've seen in the referendums in 2018 and with repeal, and in 2015 with the marriage equality referendum. Political change in Ireland, particularly progressive political change in Ireland, has often been shaped by the emigrant experience. People who found models of community and activism abroad, who've then returned to Ireland with those models, which have shaped how Ireland has transformed to be a more inclusive place today. One thing that we're really tracing through the story of this exhibition is how complex the story is. It's not just, people experience depression in Ireland as a result of the LGBTQ+ identities, which they did, but also they faced prejudice abroad too. And it was in those challenges and in responding to those challenges that many of them developed ideas about what community should look like and how different sort of strategies about how you can make society more accepting.
So I'm Roisin and this is my daughter, Niamh. We live in Northern Ireland and we've come down to Dublin just for an overnight stay. One thing that struck me actually was the Michael Dillon part of the exhibition. I didn't realise, first of all, that there were transgender operation happening back then. And then to realise that he was the first was well, quite impressive, to be honest.
The exhibition panels are built around 12 stories, which are featured under 6 themes, and our themes are exclusion, community, love, solidarity, defiance, and return. People shared stories with me once they knew that I was engaged in this research. People shared their own personal histories or pointed me towards different significant stories. Really, the themes are designed to be suggestive of a broader experience without stating that we are covering it in its totality. This LGBTQ+ diaspora experience is really diverse, it's really vast, and so the exhibition is really seen as the kind of start of a conversation rather than an endpoint.
Hello, I'm Richard O'Leary, and this is actually my first post-lockdown excursion. So it's fitting that it should be to this exhibition. Just actually got off the train, come straight here, couldn't wait. It's just great to be back and for Dublin to be hosting an exhibition like this because it's so affirming. And unbelievable because I came out in the late 80s and it was unimaginable that even though we'd have decriminalisation or marriage equality or that the public institution would be celebrating our lives.
As part of ensuring that we have as wide a representation as possible, but also to ensure that we begin this conversation about how important that diaspora has been, we have both here at Epic our stories wall where people can write up their own stories, but we also have a story sharing portal on our website at outintheworld.ie where people can share their stories perhaps in more longer form and submit links and so on, and then we feature those stories on the website along with the images of these stories written up here.
I no longer live in Dublin, and I'm probably one of those people who emigrated because I'm gay and this wasn't a very comfortable place to live before decriminalisation in 1993. Plus, I think those of us who are older, carry some damage from the earlier period. I mean, in terms of our family relationships, disruption to our careers. I was very close to my mother and I didn't come out to my mother because she was devout Catholic. And, that's something that I have to carry. And that'll be the case for many older LGBT. So there's also kind of a sadness when you visit exhibitions like this, because it reminds you how hard it was.
One thing that's really important part of the story that we tell here is about how models of community and activism abroad have really shaped domestic politics in Ireland. One panel that really gets that story across is the one that's behind me. It's about a community that emerged in the 1970s on Railton Road, which is a road in Brixton in South London. Someone told me, for example, that the first gay couple to appear on Irish television were a couple who had spent time together on Railton Road. Another activist told me that when he visited his sister in London in the 1980s, he spent time in Railton Road, and that gave him that experience of an open community. That experience could be very inspirational for people who visited Railton Road. So for me, it shows how people left Ireland and found a place of sanctuary, but also how those places of sanctuary and the experience of living there and those different forms of community and what it would mean to be and exist in this world as an LGBTQ+ person were experiences that were also brought home and transformed the world, really. The greatest thing that could come out of this exhibition, I think, is that the stories, particularly the lesser known stories, become better known.
I'm sure for anyone who comes to it, they will just be surprised at how much kind of Irish queer diaspora history is out there that we've never been taught about in schools. I think this exhibition is going to raise wider awareness.
But history is really important for marginalised communities, and having that sense of history is really important for taking a place in a nation like Ireland.
Yeah, it's really nice to see a real and positive representation of queerness in Ireland.
Yes, I would definitely agree with that. That's nicely put, yes.
The exhibition looks lovely as well, which is always nice, good queer taste.
And that was our friends there at Epic Museum, and you'll find them down at the CHQ along the Quays. And if you ever have an opportunity to visit, I highly recommend it. I think they won one of, if not the top European attraction. I think it was in 2018. So if you have an opportunity, do go visit. But for now, I'm absolutely delighted to have joining me Rebecca Carraher of Queer Arts Ireland. So thanks so much for joining us on Culture Night. I hear you're in Dublin now just for the night.
Yeah, just for the night. I came from Tullamore.
All the way from Tullamore?
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Oh no, thank you for coming and travelling. So tell me, I just want to know a little bit more about Queer Arts Ireland. So what exactly is it?
Well, Queer Arts Ireland is a digital visual archive of all the queer artists in Ireland, not just like urban and rural.
Okay, so you're open to basically any queer artists that want to submit and their pieces and things like that. And am I right in saying that you amplify kind of other queer artist pieces and things like that?
Yeah, so what I do is I do not summarize their work at all. I reach out to the artists if I find them myself, and then they can say and showcase whatever they want just for free on my page. And so it's really just about them and what they do and their work. And yeah, I amplify just their voice in the small way that I can.
And why do you think it's important to specifically kind of amplify queer artists or, queer, and I've seen some of the pieces that you've put up on your Instagram and things like that, and they vary so much, which is beautiful. Very different. But why do you think it's important to amplify the work of queer artists?
I think it's important we continue to create spaces where the queer community can express, experiment and explore. Art as itself, as a representation of life, can often help us understand not only the world around us and where we fit into it, but also ourselves. So I think it's important that we keep pushing the boundaries of where the queer community and our expression is witnessed.
I 100% agree. And what I really love by looking, I had a look at the Instagram, the Queer Arts Instagram a few times during the week. And what I noticed is that there's no one medium. That, you know, you will amplify or you will put up or you will showcase any sort of medium of art. And is that just, does that come in the form of performance as well? Or is it solely just material arts?
At the beginning, I was thinking just fine arts, but then it grew into anything, the creative arts. So if you yourself describe yourself as an artist or a creative, then I'm perfectly happy to put you there.
And if someone does want to be put there, how can they get in touch? Do they just contact you through social media or?
Yeah, the Instagram page, and you'll talk to me directly and I'll put you up.
And do you want to tell us what the Instagram page is?
It's Queer Arts Ireland, lowercase, no spaces.
Queer Arts Ireland, lowercase, no spaces.
Yeah.
Are you on Twitter or Facebook or anything like that?
No, not yet.
No. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. We really, really appreciate you coming in.
Oh, thank you for having me.
And yeah, if anybody has any arts, if you're a member of the queer community, do contact Queer Arts Ireland. I know I've been very interested in some of the pieces come up. I saw you put up a few pieces during the week yourself that you did yourself.
Yeah, I'm a sculptor and a ceramicist myself. I actually have a donation for Tenny with me, if you'd be happy to receive it.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
What, is it one of your own pieces?
Yeah, it's one of my own original art pieces. And it's
Oh my God, that's beautiful. The colours of the trans flag.
Yeah, I tried to incorporate the trans flag in an abstract way.
Well, I can tell if anyone at Tenny's watching, this is going over my desk and nobody else's. And it's signed, so I can sell it for millions. Thank you so much for joining us, Rebecca.
Thank you for having me.
And have a great culture night. So now we're going to go over to our VT of people enjoying themselves at Dublin Pride 2021.
I'm Jed Dowling. I'm the CEO of Dublin LGBTQ Pride and the Festival Director for our annual festival and parade.
I'm Christelle Giepert. I'm the Communications Officer of Dublin Pride.
Dublin Pride is the Dublin branch of one of the world's largest human rights organisations, so we're part of the international Pride movement. The Pride movement was kind of, I suppose, generally accepted as being founded in 1969, although in reality it had existed in different formats for quite a few years before then. And our function is to advocate for and celebrate the lives of LGBTQI+ people.
We work all year round. We do Pride at Work, we do community outreach and support. We have an education program for workplaces as well. And we have a second season Winter Pride because, you know, LGBTQ communities need our support all year round and not just in June.
The biggest event we're known for is the Dublin Pride Parade, which is the second biggest event in the country and probably one of the most coordinated events. St. Patrick's Day Parade has maybe 6,000 or 7,000 people in the parade and everyone is standing watching it. And while it's a bigger event overall, there are fewer people taking part, whereas the Dublin Pride Parade is open to everybody. That's one of our things that we've always maintained, is it will always be free to attend and it will always be open to everybody to march in. So it takes an entire year and longer. Before we were planning our virtual event this year, we had already started planning for Pride Parade 2022.
So this was actually my first parade and it was virtual, so my perception might be a bit warped, but yeah, I'm also very much looking forward to actually experiencing a full-scale in-person Pride Parade next year. We had a Pride Hub on Duke Street, so just off Grafton Street, and we had really good footfall, we had good responses, and just having, again, a space for queer people to come in, to socialise, to have a chat and a coffee has definitely been great.
Culture, or queer culture, is phenomenally important to our community. One of the ways you oppress a people is by taking away their culture. And if you look at the history, if you go back to Cuchulainn and Ferdia, who were lovers, you look at the lover poets of Ireland, you look back at our culture, in the same way that our Irish culture was erased, our LGBT and our queer culture was erased. So reclaiming our culture is a hugely important function of Pride, because it's our culture that empowers us, and when you take away a person's culture, they become oppressed. So that will always be at the front of what we're doing. Is we are a cultural festival as well. So within the events that we would run, if we look at this Pride, for example, we had our virtual parade and concert, but we also did a series of outdoor events where we had kids in Fatima Mansions doing dance routines and baton twirling. We had senior citizens in a community centre doing various poetry pieces. We had Luke Thomas bringing all sorts of people across Dublin dancing in the streets at 5 in the morning while we were recording it. So we have lots of things there. We run a series of exhibitions. We have a great exhibition up in the Stephen's Green Centre that we ran during the summer, where we brought out some of the Dice Man's old costumes. Tom McGinty, who's both a Dublin icon and a queer icon. This is something we do as much as we can each year, whether it's celebration of dance, of history, of culture, but not just over the summer. When we get into winter, we have them again because we run our Winter Pride Festival, where the last one we had in person, we had a Pride concert in the National Concert Hall. We had a mini festival within a festival celebrating the life of Oscar Wilde and learning lessons from there.
Our movement is essentially, it's inherently cultural, and that's why we also had different themes for this past Pride Festival, and one of them was arts, culture and heritage. And yeah, we work together with museums to put on exhibitions. We're trying to support artists as well, because there's a lot of artists in our community as well that don't receive the attention that they deserve, or that don't kind of receive the funding that they deserve because their art might be just too queer, as in too political in that way. So I suppose we're happy to support that kind of art specifically as well.
The defining thing about queer culture is that it is rebellious and defiant. It goes against the norm. I think the ultimate symbol of queer culture, I would say, would be the statue of Bernie on the top of the GPO. Everything about the design of that statue went against the norm. A strong, empowered woman standing out there. And that's the thing that queer culture is. It's rebellious. It dissents against what you've been told is normal.
I suppose it's inherently against the norm, or against the grain, I suppose, and it's about kind of like questioning, I think, as well, and not just exclusively like rebelling, but also questioning and asking questions that straight culture might not ask, because they benefit from a system that is inherently oppressive. And it's about kind of like asking and demanding a right to be seen and a right to be heard.
That was the folks over at Dublin Pride. Now back in the studio, we're here with Roisin and Robbie from Banrian. Hi guys.
Hi, how are you?
Welcome to Outhouse.
Thank you.
Have either of you been here before?
Yeah.
Yeah? No, you haven't, Robbie? First time, welcome. I was interested in asking you, the name Banrian, does that mean Queen in Irish?
It does, yeah.
Okay, I was right. What's the inspo behind it, or is it just, you sounded cool?
I liked it. It's like directly translate as like she queen, which is kind of funny.
Nice, I like it.
Yeah, just like the word, and I love Irish. So,
cool,
yeah.
Nice, all right. I see you guys are supporting Pillow Queens in December, is that right?
Yeah.
Exciting.
Yes,
Are you doing,
exciting.
Are you doing their Dublin tours or all around?
We're finishing up in Dublin. We're doing Cork, Kerry, Kilkenny. I feel like there's somewhere else as well. I'm forgetting.
Galway maybe or something?
I don't think we're doing
No.
Galway, but maybe it's just Limerick.
Nice.
Sorry, Limerick.
Okay,
I'm so
all
sorry.
good, all good. Oh, that's amazing. We're big fans of Pillow Queens here, so that's gonna be really
me
nice.
too.
Yeah, that's
Starstruck.
Oh,
Yeah.
so good. How did that come about? Do you know the guys, or you just?
No, not really. Just kind
kinda-
of through Twitter. We just got an email one night that I
Nice.
saw at like 3:00 in the morning, and they were like, "Do you want to go on tour with us?" And I like emailed them back at 3. Being
You're
like, "Yes,
absolutely, count me in. Amazing.
Yeah.
And as far as releasing your own stuff or anything, have you guys released much this year or?
Not really. We released like a debut EP, Airport Dads, last June.
I've seen that. Okay,
when,
amazing.
When like we recorded it like the week before COVID came to Ireland,
Right.
and then released it in the middle of summer.
Nice,
And
yeah.
then we're planning another EP for before the tour, which would be nice. Yeah.
Perfect. So you
Yeah.
got to record that soon, or?
Yeah, hopefully
nice,
the next
nice.
couple of weeks. Yeah.
What's the track you're going to play for us this evening?
I'm gonna play a song called End Times.
Amazing.
Yeah, wrote it this year.
Perfect. Okay, cool. Interesting.
go.
Thanks, guys.
So here's End Times. city's gonna die soon. We'll all move away. What used to be a good horse, shoebox to get well soon cards. There's no space left to stay. Found myself close to your old house, but you still live there. It doesn't feel that way. My eyes still well about your sisters. God, how I miss them. They won't remember me. I feel brave when I hold her hand. Fuck, I'm gonna shout back. We'll walk the other way. Light to be found in the end times. Didn't think it'd be so beautiful, or we'd still have stuff to say.
Thanks so much to Ban Rian for joining us here this evening. Next, we're going to go over to check in with the mobile journalists who've been out in the city tonight. So, see what they have to say.
So here we are in Dublin City Comics on Capel Street, Culture Night 2021. Can you tell me a little bit about how Culture Night went this year?
Culture Night went really, really well this year. We've been running it now for about 5 years, COVID permitting, and we always have Irish artists, local lads and ladies who are producing and publishing Irish comic books to kind of sell their wares, and we give away free comics.
That's fantastic. And this year, I believe you had artists here that are creating their own comics. Is that right?
Yep, we would always have artists. We had guys from Two Pugs Publishing, we had Limit Break, and we had Road Comics, and they were selling their latest comic books.
That's fabulous. Have you got a comic there that we can see from an Irish?
Actually, I do. These aren't actually ones from the lads who were here, but these are two of the best-selling comics that we would have in the shop from Irish publishers.
That's fantastic. Can you tell me the popularity of comics at the moment?
Comics are, I suppose, about as popular as they always have been, because they never seem to go out of popularity. Thankfully, the movies and TV series have been kind of kicking them up a notch as well. So we've got the likes of The Boys on Amazon. You've got like all the Marvel movies, the DC movies. People are always going to be wanting to read and find out more about the characters that they saw.
And that was our wonderful mobile journalists who have been scouring the city tonight, soaking up the atmosphere of Culture Night 2021. But for now, I'm absolutely thrilled to be joined by two of my gorgeous friends and two people you might know from the incredible Pos Vibes podcast. So we are now joined by Robbie Lawler and Veda. Thank you so much for coming to join us tonight.
Thanks for having us.
You're looking fabulous.
Oh, thank you. Both of you are as well.
Gorgeous.
I'm twinning tonight.
Yeah, we're like witches.
We like to twin.
Yeah.
Anything for attention, we're like the J word of HIV.
They'll wish they have HIV by the end of this, I tell you.
Speaking of HIV, which we're kind of like here to talk about a little bit.
Not yet,
so obviously it's a very individual experience, but maybe you can answer me both individually, what it is like living with HIV in Ireland today.
Well, I guess we'll start off with the good things, because medically it is incredible, because we have access to the best medication out there. We always joke, it's saying it's 1 pill a day, but it's like taking a Tic Tac, it freshens your breath, because there's zero side effects. You probably heard of all the horrible side effects of AZT and the horrible things that made you go through, all protease inhibitors. But the new ones, 1 pill a day, I take it before I go to bed at night. And what it does is it makes sure that I stay as healthy as anyone else, that I can live as long as anyone else.
And as beautiful as anyone else.
Yeah, it just gives you growth of hair in unneeded places. No, but
so does testosterone.
You are the wrong pill. But the other thing what it does is, and this is the most magical thing, is it gets the virus so low in my body. The HIV is sleeping in my body and in my semen that I cannot pass on HIV sexually because I am on effective treatment. So effectively, I'm the safest person to have sex with, not to pass on HIV to anyone. Like, I've a fella the last 7 years, he's HIV negative, and we don't need to wear condoms.
And he's very lovely, by the way.
And he's alright, he's beautiful. So medically, we're there. Yeah. Completely there. It's just stigma that's the issue.
For you, Veda, your experience.
My experience, I guess one of the things is Robbie just mentioned that people living with HIV experience a hell of a lot of stigma. It's actually probably the most stigmatizing health condition in the world. And that's the reason that we don't really have much of a community for people living with HIV.
Yeah.
And at the same time, HIV is one of the diagnoses that's most likely to have a very negative impact on your mental health and your general happiness, and which we all deserve to have a happy, shame-free life. So that's really why we're here, to talk about stigma and to encourage people who are in a position to or are happy to talk about their HIV status to join the party, to help us out, to be on our podcast, and to help us create the sea change that we're trying to create here in Dublin.
That is one of the reasons that you started the POS5 podcast, is to try and, as what you what's your term? Smash stigma?
No, we're sledgehammers to stigma.
To stigma.
Do you know, before I met Veda, I was like, oh, do you know, I always want to break the stigma. And then I met Veda, I was like, no, we want to destroy the stigma. We want to sledgehammer.
Take it one level up.
Exactly. Like, stigma shouldn't exist when it comes to HIV. And I suppose that's the goal of the POS5 podcast.
So, Robbie, you just explained there about medications and how that, medications today can lower the viral load so low in your system that it's not detectable, which we have another term for. So Veda, do you want to explain a little bit about U equals U, what that means?
U equals U is the slogan that we use to describe that. Robbie and I made a fortune selling U equals U t-shirts.
Honestly, we capitalized on HIV. It was awful.
To help our podcast, of course, and we appreciate everybody's support. So what it means is U equals U means undetectable equals untransmissible, which means that a person who is on effective medication can't give HIV to their loved ones, partners, sexual partners, whoever's enjoying them.
But that's wonderful. And the more we spread that information, the less stigma is going to be attached to HIV. And I have to say, I'm loving the Pos Vibes podcast. And what I'm also loving is seeing both of you. Like, I've known both of you quite a while, but seeing both of you come up through that. Now you're involved in different things, being invited onto television. Well, I know, Robbie, you have for a while been HIV activist, and Veda, you've come in just like a ball of fire to it, but being invited onto television and radio and to talk about living with HIV is not something we ever foresaw in Middle Ireland, even 5-10 years ago. What's that been like all of a sudden, just being put in that kind of position where you are essentially the poster people for HIV in Ireland? Has it been difficult? Are you enjoying it?
We're loving it. We started out thinking this was going to be like a little project that we would do a couple of hours a week, and and that would be our activism and a way of platforming other voices. We had no idea that it was going to be such a roller coaster, but it's been amazing. And the most amazing thing is I haven't been as much in love with the queer community as I am right now in years, because the support that we get from the queer community is overwhelming. but also the support that we get from the wider community.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you a little bit of gossip right now.
Oh.
This week, Anne Doyle, the legend Anne Doyle, is coming to record our intros and our outros for our next season of our podcast.
What a queen.
And to do an interview with us about HIV in the media in Ireland.
She's going to be on the podcast. Can you imagine Anne
Anne
Doyle?
Doyle's always been a friend of the gay. She's always been all
I
popped up in the gay bars with all
know.
the leather daddies and everything like that for years, like in the
that's
80s
what
and
we want to talk
90s.
about.
That's
what we
exactly.
wanna
That's why we
know.
want her on.
I want to know about the 80s
sorry,
and the
spoiler
90s.
alert.
Yeah, exactly. You ruined it on us.
But it's amazing. It's just another example of how amazing people are being. We also have international guests coming on, like we have Angina this week as well, who's like the first queen to come out about her status in RuPaul's Drag Race. And
That's
one of the
amazing.
first people to come out in that really big way.
Exactly.
So it's great to have those conversations, but we also have closer to home regular people like Robbie and I from the city and from other cities in the country just telling their lives, their stories. And that's the most important thing to me because they just become part of our tribe, part of our family. It's just a great experience, really, I think, for both of us.
And I think it's great what you're doing, and please continue doing what you do. You know that I love you dearly, both of you. And I know we are expecting a second season of Pos Vibes podcast, so everybody keep your ears and eyes open for that. But for now, thank you so much for joining us. It's been an absolute joy, as always, and I hope you get to enjoy what's left of Culture Night. But thank you so much again for both of you.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
And again, you look amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And now we are going to go to a few images that we have compiled over the course of Culture Night. So please do enjoy seeing the buzz around the city this Culture Night 2021. Thank you so much.
So that was the last images of Culture Night around the city this evening. In the studio, though, for our last performers, we've got LK. Thanks so much for joining us. Is this your first time in Outhouse, or have you guys been here before?
I've not been here before now. First time.
Nice, yeah.
First time, first gig in Ireland in a year and a half too.
I was just going to ask you that, yeah.
Yeah.
So is this like a little pre-gig before Mother tomorrow?
It is. I'm so excited.
Yeah.
I literally just got in here like a few hours ago.
Oh, yeah?
I came from the Isle of Man, so.
Oh, nice. So are you
Yeah,
based
no.
over there a little bit, or?
Just for a few months. I'm coming back here very soon. Because gigs are open again. So
yeah. So you're just kind of over there. Were you writing some stuff over there, or are you just doing?
Yeah, writing the next EP, and my girlfriend lives over there, so I popped out for a
amazing.
bit.
Cute.
And writing the next few projects. So
Cool.
been busy.
And as regards tomorrow, have you got a? It's obviously not an acoustic set. Is it more kind of
full band? So
Oh,
I
amazing.
am buzzing for this.
That's gonna be
haven't
so
played
good.
Together in so long, so it's gonna
Nice.
be insane.
It's going to be a big one for a lot of people. Yeah.
Yeah,
Are you
yeah.
guys on earlier on in the day?
Yes.
Yeah.
So we can get drunk after.
Perfect. That's perfect. And in regards to what other plans have you got for the rest of this year then, or early 2022 probably at this point?
I'm actually releasing this song I'm gonna be doing acoustically.
Okay, nice.
And then I've got another 2 singles, and then I've got another EP coming out.
Nice.
And then there's loads.
See what happens. There'll be loads happen, of course.
Yeah.
And what's the song you're going to sing for us this evening?
Distraction.
Perfect. Okay. Cool. Take it away. Thanks, guys.
She said, come to me after midnight. I could be your lover, or I could be just trouble. Only thing I see is the moonlight shining right above her, distraction from the rubble. And I never thought you'd be the one. I never thought we'd see the sun. I never thought you'd be the one. I never thought we'd break the rules. I never saw you coming through. I never thought we'd break the rules. Now that I got you, your lips taste like bad news, but I gotta have you, so let me be yours. You call it no strings, and I want the same things, but it's getting tiring, so let me be yours. She said, don't be weak, overthinking. I could be like sunlight, or I could be the devil in between the sheets. I'll be alright. I never say you're sweet. I like you like a rebel. And I never thought you'd be the one. I never thought we'd see the sun. I never thought we'd be the one. I never thought you'd break the rules. I never saw you coming through. I never thought we'd break the rules. Now that I got you, your lips taste like bad news, but I gotta have you, so let me be yours. You call it no strings, and I want the same things, but it's getting tiring to let me be yours. Now I waste no time on tomorrow's little game, 'cause I'm nothing you can borrow for your pain. Then one day I woke up, the sky's changing, I made my mind up. A fatal attraction turned out to be just a distraction. Now that I got you, your lips taste like bad news, but I gotta have you, so let me be yours. You call it no strings, and I want the same things, but it's getting tiring to let me be yours. Now that I got you, your lips taste like bad news, but I gotta have you, so let me be yours. You call it no strings, and I want the same things, yeah. It's getting tiring to let me be yours.
Thanks, guys. That was LK. We're coming to the end of our production this evening. Few sadness. Not just yet. Not just yet. We do have one more performance from these guys.
No, thank you so much to everyone who's taken part today, especially our mobile journalist Colin and Shauna, who've been out and about in Dublin all evening.
On the beat. Woo!
I hope that, people have learned a little bit, laughed a lot, enjoyed their culture night. I know that we definitely enjoyed it.
100%. Great music. Discovered a lot of new bands now.
Yeah. So I guess all that's left to say is thank you so much for joining us from the Outhouse this evening, and I hope you all have a wonderful evening for the rest of Culture Night 2021.
Thanks very much, guys. Bye.
Hearts beat and sudden electricity fills the room, and all I see is you falling for me. But hearts change, and girls like you are the team, driving girls like me insane to one and the same. I guess the cool kid crowd in your life's just begun. Thanks to you, I am what you had become. It was in my hands, but you shot the gun. So hit the party, but I'm not feeling anything at all. Said broken hearted and feeling like the world's about to fall. So grab somebody, get a widow back against the wall. Go to the after party, yeah, and act like you forget you cared at all. And hearts chase girls like you then run away. So girls like me don't like to stay for more than a day. And hearts pretend that every girl was just a friend. So girls like me, we like revenge, so we started again. I guess the cool kid cried and your life's just begun. Thanks to you, I am what you had become. It was in my hands and you shot the gun. So hit the party, but I'm not feeling anything at all. Said broken hearted and feeling like the world's about to fall. So grab somebody, get a widow back against the wall. Go to the after party, yeah, and act like you forget you cared at all. Girls like you, like me, like you, like girls like you, like me, like you. Girls like you, like me, like you, like girls like you, like me. So hit the party, but I'm not feeling anything at all. Said broken hearted and feeling like the world's about to fall. So grab somebody, get a widow back against the wall. Go to the after party, yeah, and act like you forget you cared at all. Girls like you, like me, like you, like. Thank you. Thanks, guys. Thank you.
Here we go.